Everyone, Matt here from Brooks Adrenaline, and today we're going to do a comparison review of the Asics Gel Kayano 30 and the Asics GT-2000 12. Now, both these shoes are certainly at least moderate stability shoes, and both of them are huge leaps forward and changes for Asics in shoes that have been around for a long time and have really stayed quite similar for a while until these versions. So huge changes, lots of updates with changes in how the stability is done, no more posts at all. Well, technically not. Much higher stack heights, although the Kayano is the more max stack height of the two. Changes in the upper, changes to almost everything. So I figured now that these shoes are really new, it might be worth helping you as a consumer figure out which one of these might be better for you, if at all, and to talk about some of the geometry and biomechanics behind what's going on with these shoes. So first, starting out with specs, the Kayano 30 is going to come in at 10.7 ounces men's size 9, 9.3 ounces women's size 8, 40 millimeters in the heel, 30 millimeters in the stack height for a 10 millimeter drop. The GT-2000 or 12 is coming in at 9.5 ounces for men's size 9, 8.3 ounces for women's size 8, 32 and a half in the forefoot, 24 and a half, I'm sorry, 32 and a half in the heel, 24 and a half for the forefoot, jumping ahead, for an 8 millimeter drop over on the side. Both of them contain Flight Foam Blast Plus with pure gel in the heel. They have noticeably softer midsoles while having taller stack heights than previous. And weights have changed a little bit, got lighter over on the GT, got a little heavier over on the Kayano 30. But let's jump in. Obviously, the reason you're probably looking at this is for stability first. So what's it going on with stability? So the stability in the GT-2000 12 feels like it actually increased or it stayed the same. The last couple versions of the GT-2000 felt a little bit less, almost like mild stability. This version feels a little bit more significant. How it's being done is again different, not the post anymore. You know, if you look at the outsole, a lot of this looks inspired by the what looks similar to the Kayano Light. You're seeing this in both versions, but the biggest thing is on both these, you're seeing internal geometrical changes, meaning instead of having a hard post, which I'll get to this in just a second, you're seeing how the midsole is set up being shaped in a way that the more you fall in, the more you push into a certain direction, there are harder elements that you will reach into that will kind of guide you forward a little bit. Both these shoes are definitely in the guidance realm. The GT-2000 clearly feels like there is medial stability. Yes, there are sidewalls. Yes, there's a lateral sidewall. Yes, it's stable overall, but for me, I feel a lot more of the medial stability in a good way, not in the oh, this is a post pushing in my foot really aggressively. It's like, yeah, I can definitely feel this push back against me throughout the length of my foot, which is really nice on the medial side. So definitely a moderate stability shoe over here. And it does it really nicely where when you need it and you're collapsing a little more fatiguing, you definitely feel it. When you don't, it kind of gets out of the way. It's really nice. That's a little different with the Kayano 30, where it took me a long time. I have 100 miles on this shoe, by the way. 50 over here with the GT-2000, 100 on the Kayano 30. And it took me a while to feel the medial stability. There's this thing right here that's, I think is supposed to be a post. It actually feels softer than the rest of the midsole. And over the 100 miles, I didn't feel a post feeling at all. And I actually felt like this collapsed a little bit more. Not in like an unstable way, just, yeah, didn't feel like an extra post that I was expecting what it looked like. The Kayano 30 feels much more like that kind of natural stability shoe, but you know, that's not, I said I didn't feel any of the medial stability. I did over time. It was just more subtle than the GT-2000. The GT-2000 feels like it's a little bit more concentrated on the medial side, whereas I think with the wider sole, the much larger sidewalls, the way the geometry is set up, it feels like it's a little bit more spread out and not as aggressive. Maybe that's because, again, the wider sole, all the components seem to make it a little more subtle in the Kayano 30. It's still a moderate stability shoe. It's just how it's done is a little bit different. So if you want that kind of lighter, but you want a little bit more, oh, I can feel that stability, the GT-2000 might be a better option. If you want the, hey, I need a stable shoe, I definitely want a cushion shoe, but I want it to be a little spread out, in terms of the stability, getting a little in the heel, like not super aggressive, just enough to keep me naturally stable, the Kayano 30 might be a little bit better option. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's jump into ride next, because again, that's where things also are very different. The Kayano's kind of in line. Asics typically has a little bit of extension in the back here, or they don't have the most beveled heels. These both actually do the bevel a little bit better. There's just a lot of posterior flare on the Kayano 30, and that can be a good or not great thing depending on who you are. The nice thing is they're using a lot more geometry now, so that you see this kind of crease here. That does collapse really, really well. So the ride feels better than the kind of like aggressive kick that happened with the really sharp and lack of a bevel in previous versions. Instead, it just feels like a longer transition, because you'll hit this, it will collapse. It doesn't get in your face. It collapses and just lengthens out the amount of time you spend on the ground. I did fine with it. I didn't used to like shoes like this, but I think how well this is beveled, even though it is flared back a little bit, and the geometry does make it a little smoother throughout here. Just know it does cause a little early initial contact when you land, but you will get used to it. It's not bad, but you know, there's a lot of shoes that are doing that right now, but there is just a little posterior flare here. When you roll through the rest of the shoe, it's pretty smooth, right? It's not too stiff. It's just a teeny bit for what you'd expect with a 40 millimeter. It's a max stack height shoe. That's the biggest thing with the Kayano. It's definitely a max stack height shoe now. It's on that maximal stability shoe at this point. And there's some stiffness, but it just rolls really nicely. And it's not a fast shoe by any means. It's 10.7 ounces, a little heavier. There's a little bounce, but it's just your easier rolling maximal stability shoe. That's really it. Okay. When you get over to the GT-2000, this shoe has gotten lighter with each version. The foam, even though it's the same, feels a little bouncier, and that's probably because it's lighter. 9.5 ounces for men's size 9 is great, and the foam's got a little bounce to it, even though it's the same. The heel is also a lot better, where this bevel, same concept, where you've got this nice geometry and this nice collapsible thing, but there's less posterior flare, and it transitions so nice. I had none of that feel. Asics is getting rid of this, but I used to associate Asics with that kind of like kind of clunky heel. None of that. Transitions really nice. The foam collapses really well. No early contact, and then it just transitions so nicely. Feels light. I've actually done a workout in this shoe, and it responded well. Is it the best for that? Probably not. You know, there's other shoes in the Asics line and others that would do better. Well, it's just a great shoe that never weighs me down. Whereas the Kayano, yeah, the weight you kind of notice, but you know, the cushioning, it offsets it. This has just got just enough, higher stack height than previous, but it's a little quicker, really smooth, and kind of, if you want a little bit more versatility, the GT-2000 is going to be a lot better for that. Whereas if you just want tons of cushioning and tons of protection and you don't mind the weight, the 30 for the Kayano is going to do a lot better for you. When it comes to fit, the GT-2000's always been a little bit snug. That's not any different. Comfortable upper. Again, the heel counter didn't bother me at all. There's plenty of cushioning back there. A slightly snug, almost like a performance-like fit over here. The Kayano, that used to have the similar fit, but now this is much wider throughout. So if you want a little more width, especially in the forefoot, which I was really surprised about, if you want a little more width, the Kayano 30 might be a good alternative. Whereas if you have a normal or narrow fitting foot, shaped foot, and you just want a little bit less room or a little bit more snug or performance fit, that's where GT-2000 is probably going to come in a little bit better. Both of them are good shoes. In the past, when I was working in running stores a long time ago, I was kind of told that the Kayano was the more premium version of the GT-2000, and I would say that now these are different shoes. The GT-2000 is kind of your lighter, but more like, not classic, but like your stability shoe with medial stability. If you really want that, a little overly stable ride, but traditionally a little more, like right now, a little more medial stability, that's where this shoe is going to come in. It doesn't have the post. It's not clunky. It's really well integrated, but still got that inner stability for those that need it, but don't want the heaviest shoe. GT-2000 is going to be really great. If you want the like maximal cushioning, you want a lot of foam underfoot, you're not worried about weight, you want a little bit more room. And if you want kind of things integrated a little bit more, like really wide base, right? Filled in midfoot, all the things we've talked about, sidewalls, geometry changes inside that where you don't, it's not as in your face, but it integrates really nicely together to create a stable ride throughout the length of the shoe. The Kayano 30 is going to be a little bit better. Those who have ridden the Kayano 30 or 29 before, this is going to be a really big change for you. Just give you a heads up, okay? It's not bad, it's not worse, it's just different. Those who have liked the GT-2000, it's going to be similar, except it's just going to have a little more medial structure, which was kind of getting lost, and it's going to be a little lighter, a little snappier, and overall better shoe. So I really like both these, but for my preferences, the GT-2000 really wins out for me. This is my favorite stability shoe of the year. I will probably do a individual video for both these, like for the 100 and this one individually, but I'm really enjoying these. They're both great, but the lighter weight, the smoother ride, it's really going well. So hopefully that helps you make a decision about whether you might want either one of these shoes and which one might work a little bit better for you. We're still gonna have a lot of videos. There's a lot of stuff to dissect, and you know what's really cool? There's a lot of cool biomechanical and geometrical things happening in the industry, and I'm gonna be the first one to go, hey, let me talk about this and help kind of all of us, including me, figure out what's going on so we can figure out how shoes are fitting to our feet and how to make better decisions about what's gonna work for us.